I figured I'd take this time to sort of like chronicleize my wrestling journey from the beginning till now. I've always wanted to do this. I wanted to turn this into a book initially, but uh, this will probably help me with the book down the line. Before 2003, I didn't start watching wrestling until like 2003. But before that, I would see bits and pieces and sprinkles of things dealing with wrestling because we didn't have cable television. I remember I remember seeing Edge one time, like in just a little WWF vignette, and thinking that he was like the big time star, multiple time world champion, and all that stuff back in like the '90s. You know, it wasn't until like recently he became champion and all other stuff. But before that, yeah, I also remember. I also remember thinking that Macho Man Randy Savage and Hulk Hogan were both like football players and actors, because back in those times there would be these NFL vignettes and stuff, and they would have like Macho Man sort of involved in them in some fashion, and Macho Man was like a really big deal back then. Like I dare say bigger than Hulk Hogan, because I knew about Macho Man before I knew about Hulk Hogan. Fun fact: Macho Man Randy Savage was a champion around like literally the day that I was born. So I like to think that that's probably why there was so much Macho Man um, centralized stuff at the time. In the Slim Jim commercials, I remember the Slim Jim. Snap it to a Slim Jim, hey mate, and that was a thing. But I think the thing that kind of like really surprised me about professional wrestling was the very first time I actually saw a wrestling match, and it was the Harlem Heat, and Booker T was like just like they was just walking down to the ring, and I forgot who they were wrestling against, but I just remember Booker T being on the camera just talking all that smack sucker and all these other things, and I just remember thinking, black people do this too, because WWF was on cable television, so I never saw The Rock. I never saw the Nation and D'Lo Brown and stuff like that. So Booker T is like the first black wrestler I ever seen on television at the time, and this was like in the '90s. So fast forward to 2003, I wasn't aware that my aunt invites me over to watch the Royal Rumble at her place. And at the time, I remember playing the wrestling video games. So I was aware that WCW, I thought that WCW was like still a thing. So I was aware of who the WCW wrestlers were, like Ric Flair, Chris Benoit, Hulk Hogan, and the like. And I remember thinking, oh, WCW must be a really top standard organization, promotion, whatever. And I didn't know that they folded, because what made me realize that they folded was when I saw Rey Mysterio in WWE. And I'm like, what? And two things. The video games made Rey Mysterio seem like he was the same height as everybody else. Whereas in real life, I'm taller than Rey Mysterio by at least a good 2 inches. So when I first saw Rey Mysterio, that ultimately made me realize anybody can do this. You know? It wasn't just like that. Seeing Rey Mysterio blew my mind, because I always thought of professional wrestling as a tall, physically fit, fat guy, sport. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now it's like anybody can do this stuff. Like, what? Mind blown, bro. And that sort of sparked me wanting to do that, because flashing back again when I was a little kid, my my cousin, who was taller than me, still is. He used to he used to throw me around. And one time I was watching Mortal Kombat, and I saw Sonya, kill Kano with the neck snap. But when you're a little kid and you're watching these shows, you don't think that that person is dead. You just think that that person is knocked out. So my cousin tried to give me a sidewalk slam one time, and I remember just thinking to myself, do the Sonya Blade thing, and I scissored my feet around his head, And I was thinking to myself, okay, if I do this, he'll pass out. He'll just black out, knock out, whatever. And I didn't realize at the time that I was doing the first part of a head scissors takedown. And then when I saw Rey Mysterio do a head scissors takedown, I'm like, I can do that. I was a child saying this. So that ultimately was one of the things that sort of motivated me to at least consider being the professional wrestling, because I would see the stuff on TV and be like, I can do that, I can do this, I can do these, I can do all of these cool things that they can do. The head scissors takedown, I can do that. The Hurricane Rana, I can do that. You know, frog splash, I can do that. I can do lucha. But living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, that was kind of off the table. Is like, where are you gonna go? You know what I mean? All the wrestling was either in Texas or in Florida or in Monroe, someplace, and it just didn't feel like it was anywhere for me to do anything. Or rather, it felt like it was expensive to get involved in, because like there would be wrestling schools, but they'd be like $3,000, and even worse, there would be like a million miles in the next town that way, and you know, when you ain't got a car, you know, I couldn't just be like, hey Dad, I want to be a professional wrestler, can you drive me all the way over to the next town over so I can do this? And my dad be like, I'm rich, I can do whatever I want. That it wasn't like that in our household. Clearly. My dad did support me wrestling though, and one time he took his beat up truck and drove all the way to Lake Charles so I could do some training at this place with this guy who saw my videos and was like, yeah, I'll train you. But Lake Charles is really far from, you know, Baton Rouge. It's like, it's quite a ways, man. So it just felt like I'm getting ahead of myself. I yarded. I finally got a chance to deal with. I finally got a chance to do professional wrestling, and one of the things that really sort of like struck me as weird was that like literally the ring that we were at was like right across the street, like really right across the football field from my school. Like if you go to the top bleachers in the football field at my school, you could see the wrestling ring across the gates, because you know the school was in a residential area. It was wild, man. It was crazy. So, you know, like one day I just decided to muster up the courage to go to this part of town I've never been to before, and you know, talk to these people who I did not expect to even have a conversation with. And he said, sure, we can do some stuff, you know, you can show up. And that's how I started yarding. I started yarding at 18 years old. It had to have been like 2006, if not 2005, 2006. And at the time, I was lying. I would be like, yo, I got trained before. I did sort of get trained before. Like, I knew how to do the moves. I just didn't know anything about ring psychology. And obviously, they saw through that. So they trained me a little bit. My very first ever trainer was a guy by the name of Ryan Landrenew, who was trained by the late Dr. Dusty Williams a while ago. I don't know if he still wrestles now, but he's technically the first person to ever officially train me. And I ran him off on Facebook because I was going through my emo phase, and there's that. But, you know, like I said, I yarded, and I wasn't great, but I was okay. And you can see some of my old yarding matches in my earlier footage, whatever. And, you know, that's the ring. That's the ring where it started. Later on in life, Matt Nix, who at the time was just Matt, it was just Nick, he had me on MySpace, and we got to talking. Like, here's the thing about Nick, is he added me on MySpace, and we didn't talk to each other for like a year and a half. Like, he was just that one friend who just didn't talk, right? And then one day I decided to muster up the courage to talk to him, and I found out, oh, he likes wrestling. He's a big fan of wrestling. Oh, he's a really big fan of wrestling. And they started the Global Domination thing, and I happened to be in that. He does a moonsault, dang near breaks my face. there was a lot that went into that. Then I got invited to the GBYWN thing, and I realized that I wasn't as good as I thought that I was, and it made me feel really insecure about my abilities. And I'm pretty sure I'm blackballed from those guys. I don't know. Either way, those guys don't like me. I'm pretty sure of that. No big deal. Fast forward a few years later, I was doing. I didn't. I don't want to say I was doing shows, but I did, get a chance to go to the Midwest every so often when I could afford it. And going to the Midwest, like it was $200, man. I was pushing shopping carts and washing dishes and stuff. It's not like I could just pull $200 and just go there as often as I like. So I would go there sparingly, and that was when, that was when I realized I'm too poor for this. I can't be doing this too often. So obviously the trips to the Midwest, kind of, fell through, and I found myself just really still having a passion, but being too depressed because I was always too poor to do it. And because, like, when Dr. Death died, it felt like all the training in Louisiana died with him. Granted, there was Wildcat Pro in New Orleans, but once again, like, Baton Rouge is like literally 100 miles away from everything. So, it kind of really felt like, even the trip there would be even more expensive than the actual training. And I didn't always have a vehicle. So I walked everywhere. Anybody who knows that I was a dude who walked everywhere. And as much as I walk, I doubt that I could walk all the way to New Orleans to Baton Rouge and back in a couple of hours to do things I need to do. Stressful. But yeah, the trips to Chicago and Indiana, and I want to say I went to Philly once, but I don't think I did. But that's what happened. Professional wrestling, like I said, the drive was there, but the money wasn't. And I think the thing that really kind of bummed me out the most about that was that, like, I remember hearing about PWF, Booker T's company, because there was a time when Booker T was just, like, not doing anything. It was just moving in complete silence. You didn't know what was going on. And I remember looking up Booker T on accident. I was looking up Funaki, and Funaki was apparently doing a seminar at PWF. And I looked up PWF, and it's like, oh, this is Booker T's company. It was Harlem Heat's company, right? So, it was like I learned about PWF. And the thing about wrestling training schools at that time was that, like, every so often you would hear about a wrestler starting their own training facility, and then you would hear about it going under in, like, a short amount of time. And I just remember hoping that it didn't go under. And then one day I was looking up PWF, and it was gone, like, just dissolved. I don't know what happened. But I do remember, and then I remember, like, looking up, it's like Booker T still has a wrestling company. It's called Reality of Wrestling. And it was on YouTube. And I remember watching the Pride and this other wrestler getting into this little backstage brawl. And I'm like thinking to myself, oh, okay, Booker T has his own wrestling company now. It's not a training facility. He's just, he gets wrestlers that are already trained, and, he does a show. And my dreams were dashed yet again. And then one day I'm just, pushing the carts at Home Depot, and I'm just like, I don't know if the facility is training, but it wouldn't hurt to ask. So this had to have been 2015, maybe like late 2014 or something. And I call up Reality of Wrestling. I call up Reality of Wrestling. There was a contact number on the website, and I call that number, and I'm thinking I'm gonna get Tina at the front desk. I'm thinking I'm gonna get, like, maybe an answering machine. I didn't think that I was gonna be on the phone talking with Sharmell Huffman, the co-CEO of the company, Booker T's wife, the queen herself. I'm on the phone with this woman for like a good 15 minutes, and I didn't it didn't click that it was her, because she just sounded like another person on the phone. And me personally, I had this reflex of just asking people, "Hey, so by the way, can I get your name? You've been very helpful." And it's like, "Oh, it's Charmel." Imagine being that surprised to see her in person when I go to Reality of Wrestling in 2020. I finally got my questions answered, and 2020 comes around. I go to Reality of Wrestling. Uh, I'm training over there, but all I'm doing is conditioning and maybe helping usher people in during the shows. But like to just be able to be there was just an experience for me. To be able to just talk to, people like Brian Keith, the Mysterious Q, Roxy, and everybody else, and just seeing the training that happens there, it was just so surreal. Because, like I say, I know that I'm just some fat yarder. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I just really wish I could have got there and just showed them what I could do. But that didn't happen. But I do think that if I had stuck around a little bit longer, I probably would have been at least on speaking terms with Zach Mason, because Zach Mason's a cool dude, big as hell, but a really cool dude. Um, then COVID hits around the time that I'm actually finishing up my conditioning, by the way, which really stressed me out. And I ended up, like, I didn't have a place to live when I was in Texas. I was living with my cousin. And, I was doing a lot of coughing then. This was before COVID. So when COVID got announced, it was like, oh, we think you have COVID. You got to go. We have 2 kids here, If you have COVID, we don't want to risk them getting COVID also. And I'm like, I understand. So I ultimately found myself leaving Texas and coming to Georgia. And once again, I thought my wrestling dreams were dashed. Until I'm like, you know what? What are some wrestling companies here in Georgia? What are some? WWA 4, Face to Face, Nightmare Factory. And Face to Face is the closest one. So I'm like, why not give that a shot? So in January, I want to say January of last year. No, February last year. I start at Face to Face. And Face to Face is where I'm currently trying to get back into going to. I was there, and then I got into a car accident that both took away my way of getting there and my money, and some of my money in the process. Ended up getting a new vehicle recently. Now I am back into it, and I should be restarting training at Face to Face, if not this week, next week for sure. That's it. And thanks for listening. Love and peace. I'll see you out there.